We tend to think of the justice system as, this really complicated machine, but one that has a clear blueprint, right? A set of rules. But what happens when you pull back the curtain and find out that the machine is actually running completely backward?
So this whole investigation, this whole story, it really kicks off with a phone call. A pretty simple one, actually. A person calls their local court registry and asks a super basic question, literally reading a rule from the criminal code to them. And the employee, the person whose job it is to know this stuff, was just stumped. They went back and forth, and in the end, all they could muster was, "I don't know." And that's really the heart of what we're digging into here. What happens when a system that's supposed to be clear and follow the rules can't even explain itself? We're going to break down piece by piece how a sort of parallel justice system can be built right under everyone's noses, operating completely without a judge's oversight. And it's all built with just paper.
Okay, so before we get into how this whole thing goes off the rails, we've got to understand the official blueprint. We need a baseline, right? Let's look at how the system is supposed to work, especially when we're talking about one very specific and very powerful legal tool. The whole thing hinges on this idea of preventative justice. We're talking about a Section 810 peace bond. Now, this isn't for something you've done. It's for something someone fears you might do in the future. Think about that. You're potentially restricting someone's freedom based on a prediction. Because of that, the rules for how you do this are, or at least they're supposed to be, incredibly strict.
So according to the official rulebook, it's a super clear three-step process. Step 1, an officer has to swear a document in front of a justice. Step 2, a judge reviews that document to make sure there are reasonable grounds. And Step 3, only if the judge agrees does the court issue a summons. See? The judge is the essential gatekeeper. That's the blueprint. Period. And here's where it all falls apart. On the left, you see the official way it's supposed to work, driven by the court with a judge in the middle. But on the right, that's the roadside reality we're talking about. Police just issue a form, they set the court dates themselves, and they slap on serious conditions right there on the spot. The judge? They're nowhere to be found, completely bypassed.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth is this parallel system even built? Well, let's follow the paper trail. We're going to walk through a real case study that shows the step-by-step mechanics of how someone gets trapped inside this paper fortress, all without a judge ever even laying eyes on their case.
Just look at this timeline. It is absolutely staggering. An individual gets arrested at their home on June 2nd. Conditions are imposed right then and there. But the official document, the sworn information that's legally required to even start this process, it doesn't get sworn until August 2nd. That's 61 days later. Let that sink in. For 2 full months, a punishment was being enforced before the legal paperwork to justify it even existed.
And it all starts with this one piece of paper, a Form 10. And get this, it's not issued at a police station. It's handed over in a driveway. But this single form had unbelievable power. It listed a criminal charge and a peace bond. And with no judge, no prosecutor, no hearing of any kind, it instantly banned this person from their own home and gave them mandatory court dates. All of it based on nothing more than an officer's signature on a form. Okay, but wait. How does a piece of paper handed out at the roadside actually have any teeth? You'd think if the process is illegitimate, the court system would just, throw it out, right? Well, the answer is kind of chilling. It's all thanks to the quiet, automated gears of administrative data entry.
It's almost deceptively simple. The police submit their form, and a court clerk, just doing their job, types the information into the main database. The computer system has no idea a judge was skipped. It doesn't ask questions. It just sees a data field that says appearance required, yes. And from that moment on, it treats the entire thing as 100% legitimate.
And right here, this is where the trap snaps shut. The person in this case knew the process was illegitimate, so they didn't show up for the court dates that were set by the police on the roadside. But remember that automated system? It doesn't care about legitimacy. All it sees is a missed court date. So what does it do? It automatically flags the file and spits out warrants for their arrest. The non-attendance becomes the very thing that traps you.
So now you've got this totally illegitimate process that's resulted in real arrest warrants. How does the system make it all look legal after the fact? How does it get scrubbed clean? Well, it all comes down to a clever bit of administrative footwork that basically rewrites history.
So what's the trick? How do you take something that happened in the driveway, something that's legally invalid, and make it look like a perfectly clean, official record in the court system? So clean, in fact, that any other judge or lawyer looking at it down the line would have no idea anything was wrong.
Just to hammer this home, for 61 days, 2 whole months, this person had arrest warrants out for them and was banned from their own house, all based on a legal document that literally did not exist yet.
And here it is. This is the move that sanitizes the whole record. An entry is eventually made in the online court system, but it's backdated. This creates what you could call a digital illusion. It makes the official record falsely show that the paperwork was properly sworn before any of the court dates were set, making the completely illegal timeline look totally by the book.
And just like that, the digital record completely paves over what really happened. So now, anyone looking at this file, a defense lawyer, another judge, a journalist, they'd log into the system and see a perfectly normal case file. The driveway arrest, the 61-day gap, the backdating, it's all gone, wiped clean. The roadside reality is completely invisible.
Look, this is about way more than just messy paperwork or bureaucratic shortcuts. There are devastating, real-world consequences here. Let's just stack it up. The process that was supposed to happen versus the punishment that was actually handed out.
Let's run through everything that never happened. The person was never taken to a police station, never fingerprinted, never brought before a justice for a bail hearing, they never appeared in court, never spoke to a prosecutor, and never had a lawyer. Not a single criminal charge was ever even officially approved. Every single one of these is a basic pillar of due process, and they were all missing. The source material calls it a ghost ship of a process, and that's exactly what it is. The entire judicial system was just absent.
And yet, even with a total absence of process, the punishments were very, very real. 2 active warrants for their arrest, an order banning them from their own home, mandatory dates for fingerprints and court. And every single bit of it was created by police at the roadside and then enforced by an automated computer system, all with zero, and I mean zero, judicial oversight.
Now, it might be tempting to write this off as just one weird, bizarre case. But this matters to all of us. Because this huge gap between the rules on paper and the reality on the ground, it raises some really big, really uncomfortable questions about the integrity of the whole system.
This quote from the source material just nails it perfectly. You cannot defend yourself in a maze if the walls keep moving every time you look away. And that's the real consequence here. When a system starts operating with a secret, unwritten set of rules, it's impossible for a normal person to navigate. How can you defend yourself? You can't play the game if you don't even know what the real rules are.
And that brings us right back to that phone call at the very beginning. When a legal system is so disconnected from its own rulebook that its own employees can't explain it, you have to ask a really fundamental question. Who is this system truly serving? Is it about justice anymore, or has it just become about administrative convenience?
So I'll leave you with this final thought. We all hold on to that core principle, right? Innocent until proven guilty. But what does that really mean? What is it worth when your punishment can be enforced for 2 whole months before the paperwork to even justify starting the process even exists? That's the unsettling paradox sitting at the very center of this paper fortress.